Success in any flyer design is said to be achieved when the flyer is actually communicating the right message to its target audience. Hello guys, you're welcome to my channel. You're welcome to YJ Digital World. I remain your host, Agu Joseph. So guys, on this video I'll be sharing with you how you can achieve a successful church flyer design using Adobe Photoshop. For tutorial purpose, I'll be making use of Photoshop 2023. Please, if this actually sounds interesting to you and you're new to the channel, do well to smash the subscribe button. Smash the subscribe button and turn on the post notification bell to get notification whenever I upload new content on my channel. And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you for always watching. So without further ado, let's dive into the design phase. First thing first, we have to create a Canva workspace for the design by clicking on New File over here. Next, we'll have the new document panels that actually comes up. In creating this design, we're creating a design that will be used on all social media platforms and other web platforms. In order for me to create this, I would like to set the unit of measurement in pixels, and I'll be using the Instagram portrait frame size of 1080 pixels by 1350 pixels. And for this, I'll call this a church flyer. That's the name for the project. You can set this color mode on RGB because this content will be used across web platforms and other devices, and leave other settings the way they are and hit on the create button. Over here we have the Canva workspace on which we'll be designing on. The first thing I would like to do here is to drag in the resource files I'll be using in creating this design. So guys, here are the resources I'll be using in creating this design. Do well to check the video description. You'll find the link to the resource files in the video description. So when creating a flyer design of any kind, be it a church or whatever kind of flyer design, we have to apply the principles of graphic design to it. So one of the major principles we'll be looking at has to do with contrast, proximity, and alignment on this tutorial. And in order to create this design, we'll be looking at the first phase of the design composition, which has to do with creating of the background. Now, in order for me to create this background, I'll be making use of resources that will actually move in line with the theme of the event. The theme of this church flyer is called The Power of His Manifestation. So looking at the theme, I'll be making use of an image of this nature to actually depict the power, that is like a light source which gives the feel of energy, okay, to depict the presence of power from the sky, to be precise. And over here we'll be using this image to fill up this other end to create that feel of God's manifestation upon the life of the worshippers over here. That is in terms of that. And over here as well, I'll be using this other set of image over here. I hit Ctrl T, right click, and flip this horizontally this way and place this around somewhere here like this. Okay, so after I'm done, I'll click on the check button. This is how the background will be looking like. So first thing first, I would like to turn off this and start blending this to work together with what I feel the background should actually look like. So over here, I'll select this layer and add a vector mask like this. Pick your brush tool, to be precise. B on the keyboard enables you to pick your brush tool. Make sure your foreground is set on black. The foreground should be set on black. Then make sure the mask layer is actually selected, and control your flows and opacity. Right click and make sure your brush is set on hardness level, should be on 0%, okay? And you can come and brush out these edges smoothly like this. That is in terms of that. So after you're done with that, I would like to enable this other image over here. So add the vector marks and brush out some of these edges like this as well. So you brush them out. Enable this as well, okay, and apply a vector marks as well. So you add the vector marks and come over here like this as well and brush out some of these details this way to create a smooth transition between each image. Okay, so after you're done with this, I would like to reduce the opacity But before doing that, I'd like to create a solid fill over here where I have my background layer. So I'll come to the adjustment and create a solid fill, and I'll be making use of this hex code. Yes, hex code for the color I'll be using for my solid fill. Okay, so I'll click on the OK after I'm done with that. So I'll select this image over here and go all the way to my adjustment panel and change the blending mode to linear dodge. After I'm done with that, I like to reduce the opacity so that this can be blown out of focus like this. Come over here, select this other image over here, make sure it's actually selected, and change the blending mode for this to soft light. So I'll select this layer over here, come to the adjustment and change the blending mode to luminosity, and scale down the opacity of this to a good radius like this. Is okay like this. Now some of you might be wondering, why am I actually blowing this or reducing the opacity of this image or changing the blending mode? It's for me to actually create the feel of what a background should actually means. A background should actually represents a background. Now looking at background in a real life situation, a background should serve as something being seen from a far distance. Okay, so when you place things in your foreground, the foreground should be the things that are very visible and very close to the eyes of your target audience. So it is expected of me to make anything that is on the background should be out of focus, or else it will be dragging attention with what I'll be placing on the foreground. So the background information or images you'll be using on your background should be seen as something that is actually far away from the eyes of your audience. So that is in terms of creating the background. So after I'm done with that, I'll select this layer here, hold shift, select this other layer here, which is called the color fill. Hit Ctrl G to group this and call this BG, which actually stands for the background. I'm actually trying to organize my layers so that you won't get confused when moving on. So the next thing I'd like to do is to enable the church logo. I like to right click and convert it to a smart object. Ctrl T to transform this out like this and place this around somewhere here like this. Ctrl T once more, scale it up a little. I think it's okay. Now in order for you to align this properly to the center, it is expected of you to hit Ctrl A on the keyboard, that is the keyboard shortcut, to select. Make sure the layer is actually selected rather. Pick your move tool and aligned horizontal center. Click on this and you notice the logo is actually aligned to the middle. So the next thing I'd like to do here is to place in the name of the church in with text over here. So I'll come over here and left click and paste in the name of the church. Hit Ctrl T to actually scale it out like this. Now looking closely on this, you notice that the texts are actually clustered and they are not actually spaced properly. So in order for me to make adjustments to this, I'll come over here on my character panel. Please, if you don't have yours over here, you can actually enable it from the windows and click on the character panel to be precise. So I'll enable mine over here. Make sure the layer is actually selected. And for this, I would like to adjust the space between text on the horizontal like this. You see what actually happened? The space between text is enabled. Okay. For this, I would like to enable the all caps. I need to capitalize all this text over here. And likewise, for this font, I'll be making use of a font called Urbanist. That's the name of the font. And I would like to select this line of text alone. I would like to create contrast. Now, talking about contrast, contrast can be created in different ways in terms of size, in terms of colors, and with the use of shadows. Those are the three major ways one can actually create contrast. Now, I intend to create contrast in terms of size between this text and this text, because this is the name of the church. It should be seen more than this other information. I'm not trying to say this is an inferior information. So I'll just select this, come over here and change the style to, let me say this on bold, and I'll click on the check button. Change this align method to center text, okay, and you can hit Ctrl T to transform, scale down the size of this like this is okay. Ctrl A on the keyboard, pick your move tool and align horizontally center. Ctrl D to deselect. You can actually move this way to the middle, okay. So I can still hit Ctrl T, hold Shift, left click and scale out perfectly well. I'm holding Shift because I'm making use of Adobe Photoshop 2023. It all depends on the actual version you are actually using. While over here as well, I can adjust the space between this text and this text, okay, by playing with the leadings like this, spacing them out like this. So after I'm done, the next thing I would like to do is to place in the theme of the event. So I'll place in the theme of the event, which is this information here. So I hit Ctrl T. For this theme of the event, I'll be making use of a font called, I think it's called Hyman Trial is the actual theme of the event. Hit Ctrl T to scale it out perfectly well like this. For this, I would like to scale it down. I like to scale down the size like this, reduce it. I'm trying to also create contrast, okay, between these two texts. So after I'm done, set the align method of this text to be on the centered align method, okay. And for this, I'll come to the character panel and space the text properly. So for this, I would like to apply this particular tracking over here, space it out. I think this radius is good enough like this. Close down the space between the text on the vertical axis like this. I think this is okay like this as well. Hit Ctrl T, scale this down, okay. You see what actually happens, this is actually coming up. So you can hit Ctrl H if you don't have yours coming up that way. It will give you a preview. Hit Ctrl H, it will give you a preview of if yours is actually aligned to the middle manually or automatically rather, and you can actually scale out the way you want. That is in terms of that. So moving on, I would like to take this out from this group, okay, and place this on a separate layer on its own. So I'll come over here, make sure it is actually aligned as well. Move this up closely this way like this. Okay, so after I'm done, I would like to change its fill color to a value of yellow, and that yellow I can apply it from my color swatches over here. So on my swatches here, I've created a preset of colors I'll be using. Here is a hex code for this yellow I'm actually using. EFE 700 is the hex code. So after I'm done with that, the next thing I would like to do is to select these two layers over here and take them up respectively this way. So I will select this layer, make sure it's directly above the manifestation text over here. Right click and click on create clipping marks. You'll notice that this image has been clipped to this. So I hit Ctrl T, scale this out and position it the way I want it to be on this, and change the blending mode of this to, I think this is okay like this. I think that's okay like that. So the next thing I'd like to do is to come over here on my adjustment, enable the curves, add more of a little feel of highlight, add more of shadows this way. But looking closely, you notice it is actually affecting the whole project. So I'll click on these clipping marks over here. I need the effect to be only on the text here, to be precise. So I'll enable this as well. Right click and click on the clipping marks as well, and change the blending mode to overlay as well. So I'll come over here once more to change the fill color of this, and I'll be using this hex code to be precise. Here is the hex code I'll be using for this. B09A04 is the actual hex code I'll be using for this. So for this, I'll select this, scale it down, bring it in to add more of the texture to this, and we are actually good to go. For this as well, I can actually select this layer, hold shift, select this other layer here, hit Ctrl G to actually group them together, and I'll call this manifestation. Okay, that is for the text over there. So I can go further by double clicking on the layer, and the layer style actually comes up. Over here I'll click on drop shadows, and on the drop shadow I can increase the opacity of the shadow, reduce the size over here, and play with it manually on my Canva. You can see what actually happens. You can place it this way like this, okay, and reduce the opacity, and likewise softening the edges as well. Okay, so I can go further by leaving other settings the way they are and click on the OK button for that. So I would like to place in the anchor scripture for the event. So I'll come over here and paste in the anchor scripture. For this as well, I'd like to increase the size. Okay, I'll increase the size, increase the space between the text on the horizontal axis. I think this is okay. Set this on regular and come over here, hit Ctrl T, scale this down. Basically, I'm just using the center align method for my informations. So I think this is okay. Space it further a little bit and make sure it is aligned properly on the middle. So I can leave this over here. I can still choose to create contrast between the text by selecting only the verse of the Bible and change the style to, let me say, bold or semi-bold will actually work perfectly well, and still align this to the middle like this. So after you're done, you can still move forward by placing in the name of the guests and images of the guest. So I'll select the rectangle tool over here. The keyboard shortcut is called U on the keyboard. So I'll create a rectangle of this dimension like this. Okay, so I'll create a rectangle of this dimension like this, and I'll come over here on my color swatch and I'll enable this. Okay, for this, the hex code for this color is FFFFF in 6 places. Okay, I would like to make a duplicate of the layer. So I'll select the layer, hold Alt, left click and drag horizontally to make a duplicate of the layer. Okay, make sure they are actually overlapping on each other. Ctrl plus to zoom in and make sure they are properly aligned. I noticed something on these two rectangles. I'll select both rectangles, select the rectangle image. I notice stroke is enabled, so I'll turn off the stroke or reduce the opacity to 0 or the size to 0. Okay, so after I'm done, I would like to make sure this is positioned like this. So next thing I would like to do, select both layers, hold Alt again to make a duplicate this way, like this. Okay, now I've actually created different layers for different images. So the first image I would like to start with will be the one of the pastor. But before proceeding with that, I would like to group these together. Select the manifestation group and holding shift, select this, hit Ctrl G to group this, and you can call this the theme. Okay, you can see I've actually grouped them together. So the next thing I'd like to do is to start placing other set of images in my design. Okay, so the first image I'll be using here has to do with this, okay, of pastor. So I'll come over here, select this image, enable it, right click and convert it to a smart object. Converting your image to a smart object enables you to maintain the image quality whenever you scale it up and scale it down, and it also allows you to make subsequent changes to the image without any issues. Okay, so I can hit Ctrl T, hold Alt, scale it down, place it into this Canva like this, scale it down furthermore and place it in this way. Click on the check button, right click on the image and click on the clip mark so that it can be clipped into that particular shape. Okay, so after we are done with that, so the next thing I like to do is to actually sharpen the look of this image. So I'll come over here on camera raw and apply camera raw from the filter. So over here on the camera raw, to be precise, I'll be making use of a profile over here on my camera raw. I'll be making use of modern, to be precise, 6, and coming back over here, I would like to add a little feel of exposure to this and more of texture to this image like this. Okay, so after we are done with this, the next thing I like to do is to come to details, boost up details as well, and the noise reduction. Okay, you can actually do this manually if your version of Photoshop is not having the browse profile. You can do that manually by playing with the textures under the basics, and this you can actually create them. So I'll click on the OK button. This is how this image is looking like. So the next thing I like to do is to add the black and white fill. So I'll come to the image over here all the way to adjustment and apply the black and white. The keyboard shortcut is called Alt-Shift-Ctrl-B. That is the keyboard shortcut. So for this, I'll be working on this and adding more highlights to the highlighted region, and this will be working on the darker regions like this. Okay, so the face needs to still be seen. I'll click on the OK button for that. So the next thing I like to do is to come over here, drag this and place it over here. Okay, enabling it, and right click and convert it to a smart object. Ctrl T, scale this down, place it here, and make sure they maintain equal head gap around this region, and we are good to go. Right click and clip mask this as well. Okay, for this I would like to change its fill for this rectangle. I'll come to my color swatches and give it this actual color here. For this, I would like to adjust the position over here, and moving forward, I would like to apply the same camera raw fill that I used over here on this. So here is the icon over here. So I hold Alt on my keyboard where I have this icon on my layer panel. Hold Alt, left click, and apply the same effect on this. Okay, now we are having the Moses Bliss image looking this way. So moving forward, I also like to change the fill color for this. For this, here is a hex code for the color I'm actually using, EFE700. I think I've mentioned that earlier. Why for this, here is the hex code for the color I'm actually using, DE6104 is the hex code. And finally for this, I'll be making use of this hex code, and here is the hex code for the color I'm using, 5E9605 is the hex code for the color I'm actually using. So I will place this other image over here. Okay, enable it, right click and convert it to a smart object first. Okay, right click once more and click on the clip marks, Ctrl T, scale this down and place it in here, scale it out. Okay, and you can position it around somewhere here like this. I like to take this down a little. I think this is okay like this. So after I'm done, I would like to hold Alt once more and left click and drag this effect over here and apply it on this as well. Okay, I notice the effect is too much, so I'll click on this arrow here and expand, double click on the black and white and reduce the blackness of the darkness on this image to like this. I can choose to add more light to this and click on the OK, so you can make those adjustments manually. Okay, moving forward, I'll enable this again, Pastor Solomon Lange, right click and convert it to a smart object. Right click and click on the clip marks to create a clipping mask, Ctrl T, scale this down, and place this like this. Make sure they have the same head gap. Okay, and we are good to go. So I'll hold Alt over here, left click and drag this effect and apply it on this, and I can still click on this arrow pointing here, expand the black and white and make necessary adjustments where needed, and we are good to go. So I'm playing more with the image. Okay, so that is in terms of that. So moving forward, I'll be using other set of resources. So moving forward, I'll be using this. Okay, so I'll change the blending mode for this to screen. Okay, so after I'm done, hit Ctrl T, right click and rotate clockwise. Scale this down like this and place it around this edge like this. Ctrl plus to zoom in. Okay, I would like to actually scale this down properly, so I'll scale this down like this and place it around somewhere here like this. That is in terms of that. So this should be directly above the layers. Okay, so for this set of images, I'll select this Solomon Lange and layer all the way to where, holding shift all the way to where I have this, hit Ctrl G to group this and call these emojis, that is the man of God, the man of God. Okay, and enable this. So I'll make a duplicate of this by hitting Ctrl J, take this and place it around somewhere here like this. Okay, and hit Ctrl J once more, take it and place around somewhere here like this as well. So after you're done, you can select them, hit Ctrl J to make more duplicates of them. Okay, you can now see the light is much brighter. So I'll select this layer here, hold shift, select this, group this and call this light. Okay, let me call this light flare. Ctrl 0 to fit in back to screen. Okay, so moving forward, I would like to place in the name of the pastors. So, but before doing that, I would like to create a rectangle. Okay, so in order for me to create this, I don't mind using a rectangle from here. Create a rectangle of this dimension like this. Okay, and turn off the stroke. We don't need the stroke, turn it off. And for this, we like to set this like this and place it around here like this. Ctrl plus to zoom in, Ctrl plus plus to zoom in, make sure it is actually overlapping. Okay, so I can go ahead and place in the name of the pastor in this. So I'll come here, paste in the name of the pastor over here. I think I'll do it this way. Change the fill to black, to a shade of black. Okay, and take it outside this group this way. Make sure it's directly above the rectangle. Okay, hold Ctrl on the keyboard to make a quick selection of this shape. Hold Ctrl, you'll notice your mouse pointer changes to this over here. Select this layer, pick the move to align horizontally and vertically into this. Ctrl D, Ctrl T, and scale this down like this. So for this, come to the character panel, adjust the leading, that is space between text. Pick your text tool, if you are done. Pick your text tool over here and align the text to the middle. Ctrl A once more, so rather Ctrl, come over here, you notice your mouse pointer changes to a hand icon. Select this, pick your move to make sure the text layer is still selected, align horizontally and vertically into that shape. Okay, and you can still create contrast between this as well. Select this particular line of text and scale this up and set this to extra bold to create hierarchy among the text. Okay, so moving forward, come over here, make a duplicate by hitting Ctrl J and drag this and place it around here like this. So come in over here, adjust this like this. Okay, and for this I'll call this Moses. Then this other line of text, I'll call it Bliss. Okay, so I might choose to change the fill color here to white and change this to a value of black as well as this. Okay, or adding more depth. Okay, so that is in terms of that. Moving forward, I can make a duplicate of this as well. And finally, I'd like to place in the date and time of the event. So for this, I'll select both layers, come to the character panel here, and adjust the space between the text like this, scaling it out. Okay, so that it can be seen properly. So Ctrl+0 to fit to screen. Okay, and hit Ctrl+T, scale it out manually, and we are good. I'm still maintaining the same Urbanist font. Scale this out more. Come over here, select this. Make sure they are overlapped like this as well. So after you're done, you can choose to scale this down like this. Okay, I think we are good to go. So after I'm done, I would like to group both layers and call this address. Okay, now I would like to create contrast between this set of text as well. So I would like to increase this by setting this to bold, while this can be scaled down and reduced to, okay, still set on regular. Turn off the flux bold effects. Okay, so likewise, okay, I think this is for this. I'll turn off this other line of text, can be set on bold as well to create contrast. So I'll bolden this. Okay, that is in terms of that. So click on the flux bold. We are good to go. So I would like to scale down the size once more, and we are good to go. Ctrl+0 to fit to screen, and we are almost done. So finally, I would like to make sure every element here is actually aligned properly to the middle. So I'll select this layer here, holding shift, select this, and pick the move to align this to the middle like this. Now you can see that every form of information here is actually aligned to the middle. Okay, so I'd like to take this down this way and balance up spacings, okay, within the canvas. So moving forward here, I'd like to select the layer at the top over here, come to the adjustment and apply a color lookup, and use a color lookup that actually works. So you can play with the different kinds of color lookups you have and see the one that actually helps your project and use it on your project. So furthermore, I'll come over here, select this layer, hold shift, select all the way to the address, hold Ctrl+T, skew this like this. Okay, holding your control key, it enables you to skew vertically and horizontally like this. So after you're done, click on the check button and we are good to go. Okay, so looking at this design here, we can say we have achieved the sole aim of this design. Okay, over here we created what we call proximity. Proximity has to do with placing information that has close relationship side by side. Okay, looking at the theme and the rider text, it should be placed side by side, showing that they belong to the same family. Okay, the host and the guest information was also placed side by side to show that they are actually linked together. Likewise, the date and time and the location of the information of the venue was also placed side by side. Okay, so looking closely, I just remembered that I forgot to place in another text over here. So I'm placing this information in here, and I would like to change the font to autograph. There isn't font I'll be using for this, and I would like to change its color. Let me use this value over here to create contrast. Okay, I think that's actually okay. Okay, this is how the project is actually looking like. I think this is actually okay. So moving forward, if you intend to export your project, you can come to File over here. This is my technique for exporting. All the way to export, click on Quick Export as PNG. And over here, I can set this is set on PNG rather. That's the default save as type here. You can set yours on PNG if other options are there. So I can choose to give the project a name, that is the file name I want to use in saving this, and I'll click on that. So here is the results of the whole design process. Here's the actual results. So ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of this video tutorial. If you find it helpful, give it a like. Do well to smash the like button. If you are new to the channel and you are yet to subscribe, what are you waiting for? Do well to smash the subscribe button. Smash the subscribe button and turn on the post notification bell to get notification whenever I upload new content. And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you for always watching. Please and please, if you have a question, a comment, do well to leave your comment in the comment section. Tell me what you feel about this tutorial video in the comment section. Thank you guys for watching, and see you in the next.